It started as an ordinary evening, one of those long, tiresome days that seemed to stretch out forever, as if the universe had conspired to keep us trapped in the school's fluorescent-lit purgatory. Detention was dragging on, as usual, and I couldn't wait to be free. You know the feeling. Restless legs bouncing under the desk, eyes darting to the clock every few seconds. I was there with Maya, Jason, and Andrew. We weren't troublemakers by any means, but let's just say the administration had a pretty strict policy on tardiness, and we'd all been pushing the envelope a bit too much lately. How much longer? Maya whispered, her breath hot against my ear as she slouched in her chair. 10 minutes, I muttered, not taking my eyes off the clock. Detention always felt like a prison sentence, every tick of the second hand, dragging the moment closer to freedom, but never quite fast enough. The teacher, Mrs. Howard, sat at her desk, nose buried in a paperback, completely uninterested in us, as long as we stayed quiet. I imagined she probably had the same just-get-through-it mindset we did. When the final bell rang, none of us even waited for her permission. We practically bolted out the door, our footsteps echoing down the now empty hallway. It was weird, though. The school was way too quiet for 5 p.m. Normally, you could hear the band practicing or the basketball team running drills in the gym. Not today. The silence felt unnerving, almost suffocating. Andrew noticed it first. "Yo, where's everyone?" he asked, his voice a little too loud, bouncing off the lockers. We all stopped for a second, glancing around as the stillness pressed in. Jason shrugged. Maybe the janitor strike is still going on or something. Who cares? Let's just get out of here. But Maya was looking down the long, deserted hallway that led to the school's older wing, her face scrunched up in thought. "Hold up, guys. Have you heard about that room? You know, the one that's supposed to be haunted?" I rolled my eyes. Maya always had a flair for the dramatic. "Come on, seriously. There's no haunted room." She shot me a glare. "I'm telling you, people say there's this classroom that no one uses anymore. It's over there, at the far end, room 47B. Andrew laughed, pushing his hands into his hoodie pocket. "You mean the old science wing? It's just a bunch of storage rooms and junk." My brother used to say the same thing, but he was just trying to mess with me. "Well, I heard that they found weird stuff written on the blackboard, and no one can figure out how it keeps showing up. It gets erased, but then the next day, it's back." Maya crossed her arms, daring us to call her bluff. Jason, ever the skeptic, scoffed. "Okay, now you're just trying to freak us out. You watch too many horror movies." But something about the way she said it gave me a chill. Like when you walk into a room and just know someone's been there before you. And against my better judgment, I found myself saying, "Let's go check it out." Everyone went quiet for a moment. I didn't really expect anyone to agree, but then Andrew, grinning like an idiot, chimed in. "Yeah, let's see this so-called haunted room." "What? Are you guys scared?" "Not scared," Maya shot back. "Just cautious." "Same thing," Jason said, his voice dripping with mock bravado. "Let's go." So, we went. The 4 of us wandered down that deserted hallway, our sneakers squeaking against the old linoleum floor, the overhead lights buzzing faintly above. As we walked further, the hallway seemed to stretch longer than usual, the air around us growing heavier. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise as we approached the door of 47B. There it was, at the very end, isolated like a forgotten relic from another time. The door was slightly ajar, the faintest sliver of light spilling out into the darkened corridor. Guys," Maya hesitated. Who's supposed to be in there? No one, I answered, my voice sounding unsure even to my own ears. That's the weird part. Jason pushed forward first, his fingers gripping the door handle as he shoved it open. The classroom was unnervingly pristine. The desks were perfectly lined up in rows, each one with a straight-back chair tucked neatly beneath it. It was like no one had been in here for years, yet it looked untouched, preserved in time. The smell of old books and chalk hung heavy in the air. But what really caught my eye was the blackboard. It was covered in strange, cryptic symbols, drawn hastily but with intent. The lines were jagged, some almost resembling twisted runes, while others looked like unholy circles. I didn't recognize any of them, and I certainly didn't understand why they gave me such a sinking feeling, like something ancient and malevolent was watching us. I told you, Maya whispered, her voice trembling. They come back, even after they clean it. Jason stepped closer to the blackboard, squinting at the symbols. What the hell is this? Is this like some prank? Andrew chuckled, though it sounded forced. Yeah, right. Someone's probably messing with us. I didn't feel like joking. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. My gut told me to leave, but my feet were glued to the floor, staring at the board like I was in a trance. That's when I heard it, faint at first, like a soft whisper at the edge of my hearing. A voice, or maybe several voices, chanting. Do you hear that? I asked, my voice shaking. Maya nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Where's it coming from? We all turned, searching for the source, but there was no one else in the room, no sign of movement. The chanting grew louder, though, echoing off the walls like some sort of dark liturgy, rising and falling in an eerie cadence. It felt like the room itself was alive, like the walls were closing in around us. Jason took a step back, his cocky demeanor faltering. I think we should get out of here. Yeah, no kidding, Andrew said, his face pale. He turned toward the door, but before he could take another step, it slammed shut with a deafening bang. We all jumped, staring at the door in shock. Okay, that's not funny, Andrew shouted, yanking on the door handle. It didn't budge. What the hell? It's locked. Panic set in. I rushed to the door, helping Andrew pull, but it was no use. The door wouldn't open. We were trapped. The chanting grew louder, more insistent, filling the room until it was all I could hear. My heart pounded in my chest, and sweat trickled down my back. This wasn't just some prank. Something was in this room with us. Something unseen. Something evil. And then the temperature dropped. I could see my breath in front of me, small clouds of condensation as the cold settled into my bones. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely, plunging us into darkness. Guys, Maya's voice was barely a whisper. I don't like this. Neither did I. My hands fumbled for my phone, the only source of light I could think of. But before I could turn it on, the chanting stopped. Dead silence filled the room. Then came the scratching. It started from the blackboard, a slow, deliberate sound, like nails dragging across the surface. I could barely see in the dark, but I could hear it. Scritch, scratch, scritch. The sound grew louder, faster, until it was practically scraping the air itself. I felt something move behind me, a cold breath on my neck, and I turned. But there was nothing. No one. Yet I felt eyes watching me, felt an unnatural presence creeping closer. Then, from the shadows, a voice hissed, low and guttural, sending shivers down my spine. Leave. We didn't need to be told twice. I don't remember how, but the door finally gave way, and we burst into the hallway, our footsteps thundering as we ran. We didn't stop until we were outside, the cold evening air hitting our faces like a slap. We stood there, gasping for breath, our hearts racing, exchanging glances without saying a word. No one had to. We all knew what we'd felt in that room, and it wasn't just a prank. Something far older and darker had claimed that classroom. Room 47B wasn't just haunted, it was cursed. None of us ever went back, and we made sure to avoid that wing after hours. But the strangest part, the next day the janitor said he cleaned the blackboard, but the symbols, they were still there, just like before.